Jeffrey had just $15 to cover $2,100 in bills. He had 36 hours before his son's inhaler ran empty, and he had an 8-year-old boy waiting at home who still believed his father could fix anything. The $15 bill folded in Jeffrey C. Core's pocket wasn't money anymore. It was a choice. Brian's medication or tomorrow's breakfast. The pharmacy copay or the bus fare to his second interview this week. Wednesday night or Saturday morning. He stood on the downtown platform watching the northbound trains devour and release commuters. People whose biggest crisis that evening was probably whether to order Thai or pizza. That's when he saw her. She wasn't crying. She was doing something worse. Swallowing pain in silence, trying to make herself invisible. An elderly black woman sat crumpled against the subway tile wall. Her purse spilled open beside her like a crime scene. Pill bottles rolling across the filthy platform. Reading glasses with a cracked lens catching the fluorescent light. A worn wallet face down near the yellow safety line. Her peacoat had been carefully maintained once. Her silver-gray hair was perfectly styled. Her whole body looked like it was apologizing for existing while strangers stepped around her scattered belongings like human debris. Every survival instinct Jeffrey had sharpened over 4 years of widowhood and single fatherhood screamed the same thing. Run. Get on that train. Take that $15 home. Turn it into Brian's next breath. His next meal. One more night of believing his father had everything under control. But the way she sat there, conscious but trying to disappear, gathering her medications with shaking hands while commuters checked their phones, reminded him of the night Sarah died alone in a hospital room while he was stuck in traffic, unable to say goodbye. So he walked over anyway. You'd think this is one of those viral feel-good stories where the universe immediately rewards selflessness with a miracle. It's not. What actually happened was so much messier and so much more complicated that by the time Jeffrey understood the full picture, the stroke, the nephew, the $2.3 million building, the community center that saved 300 families, the battle that would test whether one act of kindness could actually matter, his entire life had already changed. And there was no going back. Ma'am, are you okay? If the story already has you hooked, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you won't believe where this $15 decision leads. And drop a comment telling me, would you have stopped to help? Or kept walking? Be honest. Jeffrey knelt on the filthy subway platform, his knees pressing into something sticky he didn't want to identify. Up close, he could see the woman's hands trembling as she tried to gather pill bottles that kept rolling away from her arthritic fingers. Ma'am, are you okay? Can you hear me? Her eyes found his, brown, frightened, carrying the particular shame of being elderly and helpless in public. I'm fine, young man. Just a little dizzy. I'll be fine in a moment. She was not fine. When she tried to stand, her legs folded like paper. Jeffrey caught her elbow, steadying her weight against his shoulder. Her skin felt paper-thin under his grip, fragile in a way that made his chest tighten. When's the last time you ate something? He asked. I had toast this morning. Or maybe yesterday morning. Her voice carried the confused uncertainty of someone whose days had started blending together. I was supposed to take my blood pressure medication, but I couldn't remember if I'd already taken it, so I didn't. And then I stood up too fast after waiting for a train that apparently isn't even running today because of track maintenance nobody told me about. A businessman in a navy suit walked past them, so close his briefcase nearly clipped Gloria's scattered belongings. He didn't even glance down. Jeffrey started collecting her things. Reading glasses with one cracked lens. A wallet held together with rubber bands. For different pill bottles, lisinopril, metformin, something else he couldn't pronounce. A crumpled tissue. A folded piece of paper that turned out to be a grocery list written in shaking cursive. Is there someone I can call for you? He asked, helping her sit back down against the wall. This time with his jacket folded behind her head. Gloria's face crumpled slightly, and for a terrible moment Jeffrey thought she might cry. My nephew Marcus is supposed to pick me up. He texted 2 hours ago saying he was running late. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, showing him a message timestamped 4:47 p.m. He's always running late. I should be used to it by now. Jeffrey checked his own phone. 6:51 p.m. Brian's medication ran out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Maybe 8 if Jeffrey rationed the last 2 puffs and told his son to breathe shallow. The pharmacy closed at 9 tonight, opened again at 8 a.m. He had exactly $15 in his pocket and $18.32 in his checking account. The copay was $35. The overdraft fee would be $32. The math was simple and impossible. But looking at this woman, Gloria P. Shaw, he'd learn her name was, though right now she was just a stranger who couldn't stand up. He knew he wasn't going to leave her here. Not sitting against this wall while her nephew took his time. Not with commuters stepping over her like she was part of the architecture. He opened his rideshare app. The surge pricing made his stomach drop. $28 to the Southside address she gave him. He had $33.32 total to his name. He confirmed the ride anyway. "Ma'am, I'm getting you home. The car's 3 minutes away." "Oh no, I couldn't possibly. I have money for a taxi. I just must have dropped it somewhere. If you could just help me look." "The car's already coming. It's okay." The driver was a tired-looking man in his 50s who didn't ask questions. Just helped Jeffrey get Gloria into the back seat and loaded her walker into the trunk. The whole ride to the south side, Gloria kept apologizing. "I'm so sorry for the trouble. I had everything organized this morning. I don't know what happened." "It's okay, ma'am. We're gonna get you home safe. I used to be so independent. I used to run a whole community center by myself. It's okay. My nephew says I should just sell the building and move into assisted living. But I'm only 76. I'm not ready to give up yet." Jeffrey watched the city pass outside the window, each block taking him further from his apartment where Brian was waiting, further from any chance of getting to the pharmacy before it closed, further into a decision he'd already made but couldn't afford. When they arrived at her modest brick apartment building on the south side, Gloria insisted on writing something down despite her shaking hands. She pressed a piece of paper into his palm. "Jeffrey C. Core," she read aloud as he'd spelled it for her. "What you did tonight. I won't forget it." He helped her to her door, waited until he heard the deadbolt click, then took another rideshare home that cost $22 and left him with $11.32 in his account until Friday's direct deposit that wasn't coming because he didn't have a job anymore. He walked into his apartment at 9:17 p.m. Brian was asleep on the couch, chest rising and falling with that slight wheeze that had become the soundtrack of Jeffrey's nightmares. The empty inhaler sat on the coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. Jeffrey sat in the dark, thinking about his late wife Sarah and the last thing she'd said before the emergency C-section that saved Brian but took her. "Promise me you'll teach him to be kind, even when it costs everything." He'd promised, and now he'd kept that promise. And tomorrow morning, when Brian woke up struggling to breathe, Jeffrey would find out whether kindness was a virtue or just another luxury poor people couldn't afford. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message that would change everything, though he didn't know it yet. "Mr. Kaur, this is Gloria Shaw. I need to speak with you about something important. Can you come to my apartment tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Please. It's urgent. 5 days felt like 5 years when you were counting every breath your child took." Jeffrey had become an expert at rationing miracles. Brian's inhaler had exactly 8 puffs left when Gloria texted, which meant if Jeffrey was careful, if he made Brian sit still during commercials, if he kept him away from the dusty corners of the apartment, if he timed each dose perfectly, they could stretch it to Tuesday, maybe Wednesday morning. Monday, 2 puffs. Brian complained his chest felt tight. Tuesday, 1 puff. Brian stopped running to the bathroom, started walking slowly like an old man. Wednesday. Jeffrey held the inhaler up to the light, shaking it, praying for one more dose that mathematics said wasn't there. In between counting breaths, he applied to 17 jobs. Got rejection emails from 14 of them. Cold, automated messages that didn't even spell his name right. 3 companies ghosted him completely, which somehow felt worse than rejection. At least rejection was a response. Thursday morning, his phone buzzed with another automated message. "Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with other candidates who more closely match our needs." He was staring at that message, wondering what needs meant besides someone who hasn't been unemployed for 6 months. When someone knocked on his apartment door, 3 sharp raps. confident. Not the landlord's aggressive pounding or the nervous tap of a delivery person who'd already been told there was no tip coming. Jeffrey opened the door. Gloria P. Shaw stood in his hallway wearing a burgundy dress that looked like it had been carefully pressed, sensible black shoes, and the kind of posture that suggested she'd decided falling apart in public was a one-time thing. She looked 10 years younger than she had crumpled against that subway wall. Her silver gray hair was styled. Her glasses were new or at least newly repaired. She was holding a manila envelope like it contained something precious. "Mr. Kaur," she said, and her voice was steady now, warm. "I asked around the neighborhood until I found you. People remember kindness around here. I need to talk to you about something important." Jeffrey stood there in sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, completely unprepared for whatever this was. "How did you find me?" "I asked the bodega owner on Clark Street if he knew a young man with kind eyes who had a son with asthma. He knew exactly who I meant." Gloria smiled. "May I come in?" Brian was at school. The apartment was a disaster. Dishes in the sink, laundry on the couch, the particular kind of chaos that happens when survival takes priority over tidiness. But Jeffrey stepped aside anyway. Gloria sat at his kitchen table like she'd been invited for tea. She didn't comment on the disconnection notice from ComEd stuck to his refrigerator with a magnet, or the empty pantry visible through the open cabinet, or the stack of rejection letters on the counter. "Mr. Kaur, Jeffrey, I need to tell you about something I built 41 years ago, and why I'm about to lose it if I don't find help." She opened the manila envelope. Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, documents that looked official and overwhelming. "This is the Lighthouse Community Center. I founded it in 1985 after my husband died. He was a firefighter. The city gave me $175,000 in death benefits and life insurance, and everyone told me to buy a house somewhere safe, somewhere quiet, somewhere away from the neighborhood that killed him." Her fingers traced the edge of a photograph showing a converted firehouse. Bright red brick, children playing in front. "I bought this building instead." The photographs showed decades of life. Kids in 1980s clothes doing homework. Seniors eating meals together. Teenagers playing basketball. Food banks. Computer classes. Community garden. We survived the crack epidemic. We survived gentrification in the 90s. We survived budget cuts and recessions and every developer who wanted to turn us into luxury condos. Gloria's voice carried the weight of 41 years of fighting. "Now I'm 76. I have diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis that makes it hard to type emails or lift supply boxes, and my nephew Marcus is pressuring me to sell the building for $2.3 million and let him put me in assisted living." "Why don't you?" Jeffrey asked quietly. "Because 300 families depend on us. Because if we close, there's nowhere else. Because the day I sell that building is the day this neighborhood forgets what it means to take care of each other." Her brown eyes met his. "I need help, Jeffrey. I need someone with organizational skills. Someone who cares about people more than profit. Someone who'll show up when it matters." She slid a paper across the table. "I'm offering you a job. Assistant director. $850 a week. You'll help me run programs, manage volunteers, handle logistics, be my hands and legs when mine fail." Which they're doing more and more. Jeffrey stared at the paper. Then he saw the check paperclip to it. $500. Made out to Jeffrey C. Kaur. Signed in Gloria's shaking handwriting. Dated today. "That's a signing bonus," Gloria said. "Enough for your son's medication plus groceries, plus whatever bills are burning holes in your pockets." His hands were shaking when he picked up the check. "Miss Shaw, I don't have nonprofit experience. I was a warehouse supervisor before the company relocated to Indiana. I don't know anything about running community programs or writing grants or—" "You have something more valuable." Gloria's voice was firm, the kind of firm that had kept a community center alive for 4 decades. "You have a good heart and you showed up when it mattered. That's all I need." Jeffrey thought about Brian's empty inhaler, about the 17 rejections, about the disconnection notice and the empty pantry and the crushing weight of being responsible for a child when you can't even take care of yourself. He thought about Sarah saying, "Promise me you'll teach him to be kind." "I'll take it," he said, before Gloria could change her mind. Before the universe could realize it was offering him exactly what he needed and snatch it back. Gloria smiled, relieved. "Can you start Monday?" "I can start today." "Good. Because there's something else I need to tell you." Her expression shifted, something darker crossing her face. "My nephew Marcus doesn't know I'm hiring you. When he finds out, he's going to do everything he can to stop this. He's been trying to get power of attorney for months, claiming I'm not competent to manage my own affairs. Your hiring might be the thing that pushes him over the edge." Jeffrey was still holding the check, this lifeline he couldn't afford to let go of. "What does that mean for me?" "It means you're not just taking a job, Jeffrey. You're walking into a war, and Marcus Shaw doesn't lose wars. He destroys anyone who gets in his way." Outside, a siren wailed past. Inside, the refrigerator hummed, nearly empty, and Jeffrey sat there holding $500 and a job offer, realizing he'd just accepted a rescue that might actually be a bomb. His phone buzzed. Text from attorney Patricia Mills. "Got your voicemail. Meet me at my office today at 2 p.m. There's something Gloria set up you need to know about, and we need to file an emergency motion before Marcus executes the sale. You have 48 hours maximum." Jeffrey looked at Gloria. Her right eye was still watching him, still pleading. He thought about Brian waiting at home, about the $850 a week that could change their lives, about choosing between survival and righteousness. Then he thought about the $15 he'd spent on a stranger in a subway station, and how that choice had brought him here. "I'll be back tonight," he told Gloria, "and I'm ready for whatever comes next." The Lighthouse Community Center looked like hope that had been beaten down but refused to die. Jeffrey stood outside the converted fire station on his first day, taking in the brick exterior that had probably been bright red in 1985, but had faded to the color of old blood. The building occupied a corner lot in a neighborhood where half the storefronts were boarded up and the other half were boutique coffee shops charging $7 for lattes. Gentrification and poverty standing on opposite corners, staring each other down. Inside, the high ceilings still had the original exposed beams. The floors were scuffed hardwood that had seen 40 years of children running, dancing, crying, growing up. Every surface told a story. Crayon marks on the walls that someone had tried to scrub away. Basketball scuffs on the ceiling from shots that went wild. Handprints in every size preserved in paint near the garden door. Gloria walked him through like a general surveying her life's work. After-school program serves 60 kids. Food pantry feeds 300 families monthly. Computer lab has equipment from 2008 that crashes if you breathe on it wrong. Community garden out back grows tomatoes and hope in equal measure. She introduced him to everyone with the careful formality of someone who knew this moment mattered. Ms. Yolanda ran the food bank. She was 60-something, built like someone who'd survived things that would have killed softer people, with eyes that assessed Jeffrey like he was a shipment of canned goods that might be expired. "I've been volunteering here for 23 years. Seen a lot of assistants come and go. Most don't make it past the first donation drive." Coach Dennis taught basketball to at-risk teens in the converted garage-turned gymnasium. He was 40, muscular, with prison tattoos he didn't bother hiding and a handshake that tested whether Jeffrey was serious. "I was one of these kids once. Miss Gloria kept me alive when everyone else had written me off. You better not waste her time." Pastor Michaels led the senior lunch program. He was 70, kind-faced, soft-spoken, and his skepticism was the worst because it came wrapped in politeness. "Bless you for helping, young man, though I wonder if someone with your skills might find more lucrative opportunities elsewhere once you get back on your feet." Translation: you'll leave when something better comes along. They always do. Gloria had hired assistants before. None lasted 3 months. They took the job for the paycheck, stayed until their resumes looked better, then disappeared to positions that didn't require serving people who couldn't afford to be grateful. Jeffrey understood he was being tested from the moment he walked in. So he showed up the next day at 8 a.m. sharp. And the next day. And the day after that. He reorganized the food pantry inventory system using a free spreadsheet template he found online, turning chaos into categories: canned goods, dry goods, dairy, produce. Ms. Yolanda watched him work for 3 days before she spoke to him directly. You alphabetized the cereal. Easier to find what people need. Nobody's ever alphabetized the cereal before. She brought him coffee the next morning. No smile, but the coffee was hot and had real cream in it. He wrote grant applications using skills he didn't know he had. His warehouse supervisor experience translated into logistics, inventory management, program coordination when he framed it right. He submitted applications to 17 foundations in his first 2 weeks. Got rejected by 12, ignored by 3, invited for site visits by 2. The toilet in the boys' bathroom had been broken for 6 weeks. The plumber wanted $300 they didn't have. Jeffrey watched a YouTube tutorial, bought a $15 part with his own money, and fixed it in 40 minutes while a dozen kids cheered every time he got the wrench in the right position. Coach Dennis stopped calling him assistant and started calling him Jeff after that. He brought Brian after school. His son did homework at the corner table while helping younger kids sound out difficult words. Jeffrey watched Brian explain fractions to a 7-year-old using slices of donated pizza, and something in his chest loosened for the first time in years. This wasn't just a job. It was purpose. Community. The first time since Sarah died that Jeffrey felt like he was part of something larger than survival. Week 3, he stayed until 9 p.m. helping Pastor Michael set up for a senior prom event. A dance for people over 65 who'd never had a prom because they'd been too poor or too black or too busy surviving the 1960s. He hung streamers and felt something shift inside him. Some burden he'd been carrying alone suddenly distributed across dozens of shoulders. Week 5, Ms. Yolanda asked his opinion on whether to accept a donation of 200 cans of creamed corn. Nobody likes creamed corn, but beggars can't be choosers, can we? We're not beggars, Jeffrey said quietly. We're neighbors helping neighbors. And I think we can politely decline the corn and ask if they'd consider donating cash instead so families can choose what they actually need. Ms. Yolanda stared at him. Then she smiled for the first time since they'd met. I like you, Jeff. Don't make me regret it. Week 7. Gloria pulled him into her cramped office. The city council is voting next month on whether to rezone this block for commercial development. If it passes, our property taxes triple. We'd have to close within 6 months. Can we fight it? Marcus is the one pushing for the rezoning. He's on the development committee. Her hands shook as she poured herself water. He's not just pressuring me to sell anymore. He's trying to force me out. Jeffrey felt something cold settle in his stomach. What do? We show up at the hearing. We pack the room with families the center has saved. We make them remember we're people, not property. She looked at him with eyes that had seen 40 years of fights. Think you can help me organize that? Yes. Good. 'Cause Marcus called me this morning. He knows I hired you now. He's coming here tomorrow to assess the center's viability. She said the last part in a mocking tone that didn't hide her fear. Jeffrey thought about the $850 a week that was keeping Brian healthy. About the community that had started to feel like family. I won't let him shut you down. You might not have a choice, Jeffrey. He's got lawyers, money, connections. The front door opened. Not slammed, just opened with the confidence of someone who owned the place or thought he should. Footsteps echoed through the center. Expensive shoes on old hardwood. Gloria's face went pale. He wasn't supposed to come until tomorrow. A man's voice called out. Aunt Gloria, I need to speak with you. Now. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with, I'm still here. Let's see who's truly following this shocking story. And hit subscribe because what happens when Jeffrey meets Marcus face-to-face is not what you'd expect. This story takes turns you won't believe. Marcus Shaw walked through the Lighthouse Community Center like a man appraising condemned property. He was 45, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jeffrey made in 2 months. A watch that caught the light with the particular gleam of something worth stealing, and an expression that suggested everything he saw disappointed him on a fundamental level. He didn't greet the children doing homework in the main hall. Didn't acknowledge Ms. Yolanda organizing donated canned goods. Didn't even glance at Coach Dennis leading basketball drills in the gym. He moved through the space like the people in it were furniture, obstacles between him and whatever he'd come for. Jeffrey was in the cramped office reviewing a grant application when Marcus appeared in the doorway, blocking the light. "So you're the guy Aunt Gloria hired." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. Jeffrey looked up slowly. "Jeffrey Core, Assistant Director. Can I help you with something?" Marcus stepped inside without being invited. His expensive shoes loud against the old hardwood. He didn't sit, didn't extend his hand for a shake. Just stood there radiating the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "What's your angle?" "Excuse me." "Your angle. Your play. Your endgame." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed like he was conducting an interrogation. "Nobody helps people for $850 a week when they could make more elsewhere. So what are you after? Trying to get written into the will? Looking for a payout when she passes?" Jeffrey felt his jaw tighten, felt that old familiar anger rising. The same anger that used to get him in trouble before Sarah taught him how to breathe through it. He set down his pen with deliberate care. "I'm doing my job. Your aunt needed help. I'm helping." Marcus laughed. Actually laughed, like Jeffrey had told a joke. "My aunt is sentimental about a building that's worth $2.3 million. You know what this lot is worth? Prime location, 2 blocks from the new transit station they're breaking ground on next spring. This could be luxury condos, mixed-use retail, a boutique hotel. Instead, it's charity for people who don't even appreciate what they have." Jeffrey stood slowly, matching Marcus's height. Not aggressive, but not backing down either. These people built this neighborhood. They deserve to stay in it. Built it. Marcus's smirk widened. They're killing it. Property values stagnant because nobody wants to invest in an area with a homeless shelter masquerading as a community center. Crime statistics elevated because you're attracting exactly the demographic that depresses market value. He said it like he was reading from a presentation he'd given 100 times. "I'm gonna help them by creating jobs, bringing in investment, raising property values. Progress, Mr. Core. Not charity. This isn't charity. It's community. Community doesn't pay property taxes. Community doesn't generate revenue. Community is a nice word people use when they want to feel good about staying poor." Marcus pulled a business card from his wallet, set it on the desk like evidence. "When you're ready to have a real conversation about your future, one that doesn't involve going down with this sinking ship, give me a call. I pay my people well. Better than $850 a week." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Jeffrey? That grant application you're working on? Foundation requires proof of financial sustainability. You know what the center's debt-to-asset ratio is? 3:1. You're not getting that grant. You're not getting any grant. This place has maybe 6 months before the city condemns it for code violations, or the bank forecloses, or Aunt Gloria finally admits she can't do this anymore." Marcus walked out, his footsteps echoing through the center like countdown timer ticks. Gloria was standing in the hallway. She'd heard everything. The sadness on her face made her look every one of her 76 years. Jeffrey waited until Marcus's BMW M5 pulled away before speaking. How much of that was true? The debt ratio, the code violations, the timeline. Gloria sat down heavily in the chair across from his desk. Most of it. We're $340,000 in debt. The building needs $180,000 in repairs to meet current safety codes. Our operating costs exceed revenue by $4,000 monthly. She looked at her hands, those shaking hands that had built something beautiful and watched it slowly crumble. Marcus wasn't always like this. What changed? Business school. Or maybe it was before that. Maybe it was watching his father die of a heart attack at 43 because he worked 3 jobs and still couldn't afford health insurance. Marcus decided poverty was a choice, and anyone who stayed poor deserved what they got. Her voice broke slightly. When he was young, he came here every summer. I taught him to read in this building. He used to help serve meals to seniors and play basketball with kids who didn't have fathers. Then he went to Wharton and forgot what it means to be part of a community instead of just profiting from one. Jeffrey thought about the business card still sitting on his desk. About Marcus's offer. About 6 months until everything collapsed. We can fight this. With what, Jeffrey? He's got lawyers, money, political connections. He's already pushing the rezoning through city council. Gloria's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. She'd probably cried all her tears out years ago. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm just sentimental. Maybe it's time to admit I can't save everyone. You're not trying to save everyone. You're trying to help your neighbors. Before Gloria could respond, Jeffrey's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then showed her the screen. Text from Brian's school. Mr. Kaur, Brian had an asthma episode during PE. We used the nurse's emergency inhaler. Please bring his medication tomorrow. This is his second episode this week. Jeffrey's stomach dropped. He'd been so focused on the center, on proving himself, that he'd let Brian's medication run low again. Gloria saw his face. Go. Your son needs you. We can fight Marcus tomorrow. Jeffrey grabbed his jacket, already calculating. The pharmacy closed in 40 minutes. He had $127 in his account. Enough for the copay with $92 left over. Barely enough. He was halfway to the door when Gloria called after him. Jeffrey? Marcus is wrong about one thing. He turned. This place isn't charity. And you're not wasting your time. What we do here matters. Don't let him make you forget that. Jeffrey nodded and ran. The celebration felt like the first time the Lighthouse Community Center had exhaled in 40 years. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus's visit. 3 weeks of Jeffrey proving himself, of the center functioning better than it had in years, of small victories adding up to something that felt like momentum. They'd just secured a $50,000 grant for building renovations and accessibility improvements, the kind of money that meant survival, meant future tense instead of past. 75 people filled the main hall on Friday evening, packed shoulder to shoulder. The food was catered by Rose's Kitchen, a local restaurant whose owner had grown up eating from the center's food bank. Arroz con pollo, black beans, plantains, enough to feed everyone twice. A local jazz trio played for free, trumpet, upright bass, drums creating a soundtrack that felt like hope had learned to swing. Ms. Yolanda talked about 23 years of watching children grow into parents who brought their own children back. Coach Dennis told the story of the kid he used to be. Angry, violent, headed toward prison, and the woman who'd seen something worth saving. Gloria stood at the small podium wearing her burgundy dress. Her silver-gray hair caught the light. Her hands only shook slightly when she gripped the microphone. This building has stood for 40 years because of people like all of you who refuse to let. Her face went slack on the left side. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a sudden absence of muscle control, like someone had cut strings on one half of a puppet. The microphone dropped with a screech of feedback. Then Gloria collapsed. Jeffrey was standing near the front. He moved without thinking, catching her before she hit the floor, her weight suddenly deadweight in his arms. Someone screamed. Children started crying. Brian was there, 8 years old, eyes wide with terror. Coach Dennis pushed through the crowd. Somebody call 911. Now! Jeffrey lowered Gloria gently to the ground, cradling her head in his lap. Her right eye looked at him, brown, terrified, apologetic. Her left side was completely unresponsive. Miss Gloria, stay with me. You're gonna be okay. Help is coming. She tried to speak. Her mouth moved on the right side, but only garbled sounds came out. The ambulance arrived in 6 minutes. Jeffrey rode with her, holding her working right hand while the paramedic asked questions he mostly couldn't answer. At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, they wouldn't let him past the ER waiting room. He wasn't family, not listed on any paperwork. A nurse took his contact information. We'll call if family doesn't arrive. He sat in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights and scrolled through Gloria's phone until he found the contact marked, I Marcus. Marcus answered on the 5th ring, clearly annoyed. What? It's Jeffrey Kaur. I work with your Aunt Gloria. She's had a stroke. She's at Northwestern Memorial. Silence. Then, how bad? Bad. They're running tests now, but she can't move her left side. She can't speak. A long pause. I'll be there as soon as I can. Jeffrey called Coach Dennis, who'd taken Brian and the other kids back to the center. Then he waited. 90 minutes later, Marcus arrived. Still in his work suit, but his face had lost that sharp edge of irritation. He looked worried. Actually worried. What happened? Jeffrey explained. The celebration, the speech, the collapse. Marcus ran his hand over his face. The doctors. What are they saying? They won't tell me anything. I'm not family. Right? Okay. Marcus walked to the nurse's station, showed ID, spoke in low tones. A nurse led him through the doors Jeffrey couldn't pass. 45 minutes later, Marcus emerged. He looked 10 years older. He sat down heavily in the chair next to Jeffrey. Ischemic stroke. Left hemisphere. She can't move her left side. Her speech is... He trailed off. They're saying 6 to 8 months recovery minimum. Maybe longer. They sat in silence for a moment. I should have been there tonight, Marcus said quietly. She invited me to the celebration. I told her I had a work thing. He laughed bitterly. A networking dinner. Drinks with potential investors. I chose that over being there for her. Jeffrey didn't know what to say. She's going to need serious care, Marcus continued. Round-the-clock therapy, medical supervision. The kind of care that costs. He stopped. I've been pressuring her to sell the building. Did she tell you that? Yeah. I thought I was being practical. The building's worth $2.3 million. She's drowning in debt trying to keep it running. I kept thinking, why is she killing herself for this place when she could sell, live comfortably, actually enjoy her retirement? He looked at Jeffrey. But watching everyone tonight before she collapsed, the way people looked at her, talked about her, I realized I've been seeing the building as real estate when she's been seeing it as... What? Legacy? Family? Community? Jeffrey said quietly. She built community. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah. And I've been trying to sell it like it's just bricks and property taxes. A doctor emerged, looking for Marcus. They spoke briefly. Gloria was stable, sleeping. He could see her in the morning. Marcus turned back to Jeffrey. You should go home. Get some rest. Your son needs you. Will you call me? When you know more. Marcus pulled out his phone. Give me your number. Jeffrey did. As he was leaving, Marcus called after him. Jeffrey? She talks about you. Says you remind her why she started this whole thing. He paused. Thank you. For being there tonight. For being there these past weeks. Jeffrey drove home through quiet streets, thinking about Gloria's face going slack, about Brian's terrified eyes, about how fast stability could collapse into crisis. Brian was asleep on the couch when he got home, Coach Dennis reading beside him. How is she? Dennis asked. Stroke. She's stable, but it's bad. Dennis closed his eyes. That woman saved my life. Literally. When I got out, nobody would give me a chance. She didn't even ask what I'd been in for. Just asked if I was ready to help kids like me. He stood. Whatever happens next, with the building, with Marcus, with any of it, we don't let her wake up to find out we gave up. You hear me? Jeffrey nodded. After Dennis left, he carried Brian to bed, tucking him in like he'd done 1,000 times. His phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Had an idea. Can we meet tomorrow? There might be a way to save this that doesn't involve selling. But I'm going to need your help. Jeffrey stared at the message. Maybe Marcus wasn't the villain he'd seemed. Maybe grief and fear looked like greed when you didn't know how to express them. Maybe, just maybe, this crisis could bring people together instead of tearing them apart. He texted back. When and where? The response came immediately. Gloria's room. 9 a.m. Let's figure this out together. Jeffrey set his phone down, feeling something shift. Not relief, it was too soon for that, but something like possibility. Tomorrow they'd start fighting. Not against each other. For Gloria. For the center. For the community she'd spent 40 years building. One act of kindness at a time. Jeffrey arrived at Northwestern Memorial at 8:45 a.m., carrying 2 coffees from the hospital cafeteria and uncertainty about what Marcus actually wanted. Gloria's room was on the 4th floor, neurology wing. Through the small window in the door, he could see her sleeping, small and diminished in the hospital bed, machines beeping steady rhythms around her. Marcus was already there, sitting in the chair beside her bed, holding her right hand. He wasn't on his phone. Wasn't checking emails. Just sitting there, watching his aunt breathe. Jeffrey knocked softly. Marcus looked up. His eyes red-rimmed like he'd been crying or hadn't slept. Probably both. "Come in." Jeffrey handed him one of the coffees. Marcus took it with a nod of thanks that seemed genuine. "She woke up about an hour ago," Marcus said quietly. "Tried to talk. Couldn't get the words out. Got so frustrated she started crying with just one eye because the other side of her face won't work yet." His voice broke slightly. "I haven't seen her cry since Uncle David's funeral. That was 1984. Jeffrey pulled a chair to the other side of the bed. Gloria's left hand lay motionless on the blanket. Her right hand was curled loosely in Marcus's grip. "I sat here all night thinking," Marcus continued, "about how I became the kind of person who sees a community center and only calculates property value. About when exactly I stopped being the kid who spent summers here learning to read from Aunt Gloria, and became the guy in the expensive suit trying to convince her to sell her life's work for my profit margin." He set down his coffee, ran both hands over his face. "You know what I remembered at about 3 a.m.? When I was 12, my dad had his first heart attack. We had no insurance. He kept working anyway because we needed money. Aunt Gloria paid his medical bills. Didn't ask if we could pay her back. Didn't make it a loan. Just paid them because that's what family does." Marcus looked at Jeffrey. $15,000. That's what she spent to keep my father alive for another 3 years. And when he died anyway, she paid for the funeral too. Jeffrey didn't know what to say. "I went to business school on a scholarship she helped me get. Built my company with a loan she co-signed when no bank would touch me. And I've spent the past 2 years trying to sell the building that represents everything she believes in, telling myself I was being practical." He laughed bitterly. "I wasn't being practical. I was being exactly what my father would have hated. Someone who forgot where he came from." Gloria's right eye fluttered open, focused on Marcus, then on Jeffrey. She tried to speak. Her mouth moved. Sounds came out. Garbled, frustrated, not quite words. "Don't push it, Aunt Gloria," Marcus said gently. "The speech therapist is coming at 10. She said you'll get your voice back. Just takes time." Gloria's right hand squeezed Marcus's fingers. Her eye filled with tears. Marcus cleared his throat. "I have an idea. It's not perfect, but I think it might work." He looked at Jeffrey. "What if instead of selling the building we save it? Together." "How?" "I've got connections. Developers who owe me favors. Foundations looking for community investment projects. Corporate sponsors who need good PR." Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolled to notes he'd apparently been making all night. "What if we do a capital campaign? Raise money to pay off the center's debt, fund renovations, build an endowment that makes it sustainable long-term." Jeffrey felt something like hope stirring. "You think that's possible?" "I think with the right pitch, the right media attention, the right story, yes." Marcus looked at his aunt. "And we've got one hell of a story. Woman builds community center with her husband's life insurance money. Runs it for 40 years serving 300 families. Has a stroke while celebrating a grant that would save it. Community rallies to finish what she started. What do you need from me? Help me understand what Gloria actually built here. Not the programs or the budget, the human part. The stories. The lives changed. The thing that makes this building worth saving beyond just property value." Marcus's voice was earnest. "I've been looking at spreadsheets for 2 years. I need to see what she sees." "Okay, I can do that." Gloria made another sound, more insistent. Her right hand reached across the bed toward Jeffrey. He took it, feeling how weak her grip was. Marcus stood. "I'm donating the first $100,000 to the campaign. From my personal funds. Not a loan. A donation. To prove I'm serious about this." Jeffrey stared at him. "That's Marcus, that's a lot of money. It's less than what my father's medical bills would have been if Aunt Gloria hadn't paid them." Marcus came back to the bed, took Gloria's hand again. "And it's what family does. Which I forgot. But I'm remembering now." Gloria was crying. Just from her right eye, tears sliding down the working side of her face. Her mouth was moving, trying so hard to form words. Thank. Don't thank me yet, Marcus said. Thank me when we've actually pulled this off. A nurse came in to check vitals, shooing them into the hallway. Jeffrey and Marcus stood outside room 412. Two men who'd been on opposite sides suddenly trying to figure out how to work together. Why the change? Jeffrey asked. Really? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Last night, sitting here, I realized something. My whole career I've been building things that make money. Luxury condos, mixed-use developments, properties that look good in portfolios. He gestured toward the room. She built something that saves lives. And I was about to destroy it to add another zero to my net worth. He met Jeffrey's eyes. That would have made me exactly the kind of person I never wanted to become. They went back into the room. Gloria was awake, watching them with her right eye. Jeffrey sat beside her. Miss Gloria, Marcus wants to help save the center. He's got a plan. We're going to try. Her right hand lifted slightly, reaching for both of them. Marcus took one side, Jeffrey took the other. Her grip was weak, but her intention was clear. She was binding them together, making them promise without words to work together. The speech therapist arrived at 10. A cheerful woman named Linda who immediately started working with Gloria on simple sounds, treating each small success like a victory. Jeffrey and Marcus went to the cafeteria to plan. By noon, they had a strategy. Emergency community meeting tonight at Pastor Michael's church, 7 p.m. Marcus would present the financial reality honestly: debt, operating costs, sustainability challenges. Jeffrey would explain Gloria's condition and what the center meant to families. Together they'd propose the capital campaign. $500,000 goal to eliminate debt, fund renovations, create operational endowment. Marcus would announce his $100,000 donation and challenge others to match. Timeline: 90 days to raise the full amount. It's ambitious, Marcus admitted. Maybe impossible. Seems like that's been the theme lately, Jeffrey said. Doing impossible things. They made calls. Pastor Michaels agreed to host immediately. Ms. Yolanda started the phone tree. Coach Dennis spread the word through the basketball program. By 5 p.m., Jeffrey's phone was flooded with messages. People wanting updates on Gloria, asking what they could do. At 6:30 p.m., Jeffrey picked up Brian from after-school care. Is Miss Gloria okay? Brian asked immediately. She's getting better. It's going to take time, but she's tough. Can I see her? Tomorrow. Mr. Marcus arranged it. Brian was quiet for a moment. The mean guy who wanted to sell the building? Yeah. Turns out he's not so mean. Just confused. But he remembers now. They arrived at the church at 6:45 p.m. The basement was already packed. Not 70 people, closer to 200. Families from the food bank, seniors from the lunch program, teenagers from basketball, volunteers, donors, people whose lives had intersected with Gloria's 40-year mission. Ms. Yolanda pulled Jeffrey aside. People are scared. Scared Gloria won't recover. Scared the building will close. I know. So what do we tell them? Jeffrey looked across the room at Marcus, who was standing alone near the front, looking uncomfortable. We tell them the truth, and we ask them to help us save it. At 7 p.m., Pastor Michaels called the meeting to order. The room fell silent. Jeffrey stood up, Marcus beside him. 3 weeks ago, Gloria Shaw hired me when I had nothing, Jeffrey began. She gave me a job, gave my son stability, gave me purpose. Last night, she had a stroke while celebrating a grant that would save this building. She's in the hospital right now, fighting to recover, wondering if the place she's given 40 years to will still be here when she gets back. He paused, letting that sink in. Marcus Shaw is Gloria's nephew. Some of you know he's been trying to convince her to sell this building. And he's here tonight to tell you why that's changed. Marcus stepped forward. The room tensed. You're right to not trust me, Marcus said. I've been the enemy for 2 years. I told my aunt this building was a liability, that she should sell it and move on. I was wrong. He pulled out the old photograph from his pocket. This is me when I was 12, standing in front of the lighthouse. My father had just had his first heart attack. We were drowning financially. Aunt Gloria paid my father's medical bills. $15,000 she didn't have. She went into debt against this building to save my dad's life. The room was silent now, listening. She paid for his funeral when he died. She helped me get to business school. She co-signed loans for my first company. I built everything I have on a foundation she created. His voice cracked. And then I forgot. I looked at this building and saw real estate instead of the place that saved my family. He took a breath. Last night, sitting in the hospital while my aunt slept, I remembered who I was supposed to be. Someone who helps, not someone who profits. So I'm here to help save this building. Not sell it. Save it. He pulled out his phone, projected his banking app onto the wall. I'm donating $100,000 to the Lighthouse Community Center. Effective immediately. He pressed confirm. The screen showed the transfer completing. The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, someone started crying. We need $500,000 total, Marcus continued. I'm challenging 5 other donors to match $20,000 each. The remaining $300,000 will raise through a public campaign. 90 days. We either save Gloria's legacy together, or we lose it forever. Jeffrey stepped forward. This isn't just about money. It's about showing Gloria that what she built matters. That 40 years of choosing people over profit wasn't foolish, it was revolutionary. Coach Dennis walked forward from the back. Why should we trust you? He asked Marcus. You shouldn't, Marcus said simply. Trust takes time. I'm asking for a chance to earn it. Judge me by what I do, not what I say. Coach Dennis studied him, then extended his hand. Marcus shook it. Ms. Yolanda stood. I've got $200 saved. It's yours. For Gloria. A mother in the third row stood. I can give $50. Gloria's food bank fed my kids when I couldn't. A teenager stood. I'll volunteer. Whatever you need. Gloria taught me to read when the schools gave up on me. One by one, people stood. A senior pledged $500. A business owner pledged $2,000. A mother said she'd organize a bake sale. Teenagers offered to run social media campaigns. Pastor Michaels pledged $1,000. In 20 minutes, the community pledged $47,000 in cash and hundreds of volunteer hours. Jeffrey stood there watching, realizing that Gloria hadn't just built a building. She'd built a web of connections, a network of people who decided some things were worth saving. Marcus was crying. Actually crying. Ms. Yolanda walked up to him. You break her heart again, you'll answer to me? Yes, ma'am. Good. Now let's get to work. The meeting transformed. People formed committees, fundraising, events, media, volunteers. Someone knew a graphic designer. Someone else knew a journalist. A lawyer offered pro bono work. By 9 p.m. they had campaign name, The Lighthouse Legacy. 40 years of light, forever of hope. Goal, $500,000 in 90 days. Media strategy, launch event in 1 week. Volunteer army, 83 people signed up. Cash and pledges, $147,000 already committed. Jeffrey's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Marcus approached as people were leaving. Thank you for giving me a chance to fix this. Thank you for stepping up. Jeffrey picked up Brian, who'd fallen asleep in a pew. As he was leaving, Ms. Yolanda caught his arm. That $15 you spent on her that night, she said quietly. Best investment this neighborhood ever saw. Jeffrey drove home thinking about $15 becoming everything that mattered. His phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Core? Janet Williams from the Chicago Tribune. I heard about your campaign. I'd like to do a feature story. Would you and Marcus be available for an interview? Yes, we'll make time. He hung up and checked his email. Message from the Eisenberg Family Foundation. Dear Mr. Core, we're prepared to offer a 1:1 match up to $150,000 for all funds raised in the next 90 days. Best regards, David Eisenberg, Director. Jeffrey read it 3 times. $150,000 matching grant. Combined with $147,000 pledged, That was nearly $300,000. Halfway to their goal on day 1. He texted Marcus, "Check your email. Eisenberg Foundation." Response, "I saw. This is really happening." Jeffrey sat in the dark apartment, Brian sleeping peacefully. Tomorrow they'd visit Gloria and tell her what her community had done. Tomorrow the real work would begin. But tonight, he believed that maybe the impossible things were the ones most worth doing. His phone buzzed. Text from Coach Dennis. "Gloria just texted me. Took her 10 minutes to type one word. Family." Jeffrey smiled, tears in his eyes. "Yeah, family. The kind you build one act of kindness at a time. Starting with $15. The campaign went viral on day 3. Someone had filmed the community meeting. Marcus announcing his donation, people standing up pledging whatever they could afford, Ms. Yolanda telling him he'd answer to her. The video hit 2 million views in 48 hours. Local news picked it up. Then regional. Then national. Good Morning America, CNN, The Today Show. Donations poured in. $50 from a teacher in Oregon. $500 from a retired firefighter in Boston. $10,000 from a tech executive in San Francisco. By day 7, $312,000 raised, plus the $150,000 match equals $462,000 total. By day 14, $387,000 raised, plus match equals $537,000 total. They'd exceeded their goal in 2 weeks. But the best part wasn't the money. It was watching Gloria come back to life. Jeffrey and Brian visited every day. Marcus came too, the 3 of them forming a strange kind of family. Week 1, Gloria could say simple words. Yes. No. Thank you. Week 2, short sentences. How is Brian? The center. Okay? Week 3, real conversation. She could tell stories, ask questions, laugh. Lopsided but beautiful. Week 4. She cried when they told her about the campaign. Jeffrey showed her the website. Marcus pulled up news articles. Brian had drawn a picture of the lighthouse with a giant heart. She read donation comments slowly. Gloria's food bank fed my family. $100. I learned to read at the lighthouse. $250. My grandmother ate lunch there for 15 years. $500 in her memory. Gloria's hand shook as she scrolled, tears streaming. They did this for me? They did it for what you built, Jeffrey said. For 40 years of showing up. She looked at Marcus. You donated? $100,000. It's not enough to make up for the past 2 years. But it's a start. Gloria reached for his hand with her recovering left hand. Your father would be proud. Marcus broke down completely. I'm sorry, Aunt Gloria. I forgot what you taught me. Forgot what Dad believed in. You remembered, Gloria said simply. That's what matters now. Physical therapy was brutal, but she attacked it with 40 years of stubbornness. By week 5, she could stand unassisted. By week 6, walk 10 steps. By week 7, her smile was crooked but real. The campaign kept growing. A celebrity chef donated $25,000. A city-matching grant added $50,000. Small donations kept coming $5, $10, $20. Final total by day 90. $623,000 raised. Plus match equals $773,000 total. They'd exceeded their goal by more than 50%. Marcus structured everything properly. Community land trust, nonprofit board, financial systems ensuring sustainability. He also did something unexpected. He stepped down from his development company. I was building the wrong things, he explained. So I'm starting a nonprofit development consulting firm. Using my business skills for something that actually matters. Gloria smiled her crooked smile. Your father would love that. The repairs started in week 8. New roof, updated electrical accessibility ramps, fresh paint, new computers, refinished gym floor, expanded garden. Gloria was discharged in week 9. Not to live alone. Marcus had converted his guest house, insisting she stay until fully recovered. You took care of me when I was 12. Let me return the favor. Week 10. She visited the center for the first time since her stroke. Jeffrey had organized it as a surprise. When Gloria walked through the doors, slowly with her walker, but walking, the entire building erupted. 200 people. Families, seniors, kids, volunteers, donors. Decorated with banners. Welcome home, Gloria, and 40 years of light. Ms. Yolanda organized a potluck. Coach Dennis had the basketball team perform. Pastor Michaels led prayer. Brian presented Gloria with a book he'd made. Construction paper bound with yarn, filled with drawings and stories from kids about what the lighthouse meant. Gloria sat in a decorated wheelchair and cried and laughed and hugged people. She tried to make a speech. The room went silent. 40 years ago, she spoke slowly but clearly. I bought this building with my husband's life insurance. Everyone said I was being foolish. She looked around at all the faces. But I knew this neighborhood needed a lighthouse, a place where people could find their way when everything else was dark. Her voice strengthened. I thought I was building a community center, but you taught me I was wrong. We built this together. She gestured to Jeffrey. 3 months ago, a stranger spent his last $15 to help an old woman he'd never met. He didn't know that $15 would save this building, would save 300 families, would remind me why I started this. Her eyes found Marcus, and it reminded my nephew who he really is, not a developer, a boy who was saved by community and grew up to save it. Right back. She stood slowly using her walker. So thank you. Thank you for fighting for this place, for fighting for me, for showing the world that kindness isn't weakness, that community isn't charity, that love is the only thing worth building. The room exploded in applause. People stood, not polite standing, but the kind that goes on and on because the moment feels too important to let end. Gloria stood too, smiling at the room full of people who'd refused to let her life's work disappear. Jeffrey stood beside her, Brian holding his hand, thinking about a subway platform 3 months ago when he'd had $15 and an impossible choice. Later, after everyone left, Gloria asked Jeffrey to sit with her in her office. Walls covered with Brian's drawings, chronological like a gallery. Jeffrey, I need to tell you something. Gloria's speech was almost normal. The day you found me at the subway station, I was on my way to meet with my lawyer. Jeffrey waited. I was going to sell the building. Tears filled her eyes. Marcus had been pressuring me for months. I was exhausted, sick, alone. I decided he was right. Time to give up. But you didn't. No, because a stranger with kind eyes reminded me why I started this. You didn't help me expecting anything back. You just helped. She took his hand. That $15 didn't just pay for a ride home. It reminded me that people are fundamentally good, that we save each other when we can, that 40 years of work mattered because of moments exactly like that one. Jeffrey felt tears burning. You saved this building, Gloria said, not with fundraising or organizing. You saved it the moment you knelt down on that subway platform and decided a stranger's dignity mattered more than your own survival. I just did what anyone would do. No, Gloria squeezed his hand. You did what good people do, and good people change the world $15 at a time. They sat together in the quiet office, in the building saved by 200 people who'd learned from 40 years of watching Gloria Shaw choose kindness. Jeffrey's phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Board meeting tomorrow 10 a.m. Voting to officially make you executive director. Salary $65,000 plus benefits. Don't be late. Another text. Aunt Gloria's moving back next week. Full recovery expected in 6 to 8 weeks. Miracle isn't a strong enough word. Jeffrey showed Gloria. She smiled. Miracles start with $15 and a choice. Everything after that is just people being brave enough to care. Outside, the lighthouse stood on its corner, no longer vulnerable, no longer at risk. It was exactly what Gloria had built it to be. A lighthouse, a place where people could find their way when everything else was dark. A place where kindness wasn't a transaction but a revolution. And it all started with a single father, his last $15, and a woman who reminded him that saving each other is what we're built for. The campaign money arrived in waves, but Gloria's recovery came in small, hard-won victories. Week 1 after the community meeting, Gloria could say simple words. Jeffrey visited every morning before work, Marcus every evening after. Brian came on weekends, drawing pictures at her bedside that she kept on the rolling hospital table. Dad. She managed one Tuesday, looking at Jeffrey. I'm not your dad, Miss Gloria. I'm Jeffrey. She shook her head, frustrated. Her right hand pointed at Brian, then at Jeffrey. Oh, you're asking about if I'm a good dad. She nodded, tears forming. Because of you, I am. You gave me the chance to provide for him. Her right hand squeezed his. That was all she could manage, but it was enough. Week 2. Short sentences emerged like prisoners breaking free. How is the center? Did fundraising work? Marcus staying? Jeffrey brought his laptop to show her the campaign updates. Her right eye widened as she scrolled through donation comments with her working hand. Gloria gave my kids hope. Here's $200. The lighthouse saved my life. $500. In memory of my mother who ate lunch there. $1,000. She cried. Just from the right side of her face, the left still frozen. But the tears were real. Week 3. Speech therapy with Linda became the highlight of Gloria's day. The therapist would hold up cards with pictures, and Gloria would practice saying the words. Apple. House. Family. She struggled most with family. The word kept coming out garbled, twisted. But she kept trying, kept pushing, until finally, on a Thursday afternoon with Jeffrey and Marcus both present, she said it clearly. Family. She pointed at them both. My family. Marcus had to leave the room. When he came back 10 minutes later, his eyes were red. Week 4. Physical therapy was torture. The therapist, a former Marine named Davis, was relentless. Come on, Gloria. 5 more steps. You've got this. Gloria would grip her walker, left leg dragging, right leg doing all the work, and push herself forward. 1 step. 2 steps. By the end of week 4, she made it to 7 steps before exhaustion. 8. Tomorrow, she told Davis, defiant even in weakness. That's my girl, he said. The campaign continued its momentum. The Tribune feature ran on the front page of the Sunday Metro section. Community rallies to save founder's legacy. The photo showed the packed church meeting, Marcus at the podium, people standing with pledged donation signs. The story went national. CNN picked it up. Good Morning America did a remote interview with Jeffrey and Marcus from Gloria's hospital room, where she managed to say, slowly but clearly, thank you, everyone, for remembering. Donations exploded. By week 5, they'd hit $400,000, already $250,000 past their minimum goal, plus the Eisenberg match would add another $150,000. Marcus brought the news to Gloria's room on a Monday morning, tablet in hand showing the live campaign counter. Aunt Gloria, we did it. We exceeded the goal. The lighthouse is saved. She tried to smile, but the left side of her face still wouldn't cooperate fully. Instead, she lifted her right hand in a shaky thumbs up that made everyone in the room laugh. Week 6. They moved Gloria to a rehabilitation facility on the north side, a place that smelled like industrial cleaner and determination. She had her own room with a view of the city, and Marcus had arranged for it to be filled with photos from the lighthouse. 40 years of memories covering every wall. Her speech was coming back faster now. She could hold brief conversations, though she tired quickly and sometimes the words still jumbled. "The board meeting," she said one afternoon to Jeffrey. "You'll need to run it. You'll be back before then." She shook her head firmly. "You run it. You're executive director. Now. Official. Gloria, you're still." "Jeffrey." She gripped his hand with surprising strength. "I'm 76. Had a stroke. I'm not running anything for months. Maybe longer. Maybe never the same." Her eyes were clear, accepting. "You are the lighthouse now, not me." The words settled heavy in the room. "I'll keep your seat warm," Jeffrey said quietly, "until you're ready." "No." Gloria squeezed harder. "You'll lead. That's different." Week 7. The left side of Gloria's face started working again. Not perfectly, but enough that her smile looked more like a smile and less like a grimace. She could move her left arm with effort, curl her left hand's fingers around a cup, lift light objects. Davis, the therapist, pushed her to walk longer distances. 10 steps became 12, became 15. By the end of week 7, Gloria walked 20 steps without resting, her face flushed with effort and triumph. "Told you, I'd get stronger," she said. Week 8. The board meeting happened at the rehabilitation facility because Gloria insisted on attending, even if she couldn't run it. They set up chairs in the common room. Jeffrey, Marcus, Ms. Yolanda, Coach Dennis, Pastor Michaels, and 3 new community members they'd voted onto the board. Jeffrey ran the meeting from notes Gloria had dictated over the past week. Budget updates, program reports, fundraising status, plans for the renovations they could now afford. Gloria sat in her wheelchair at the head of the table, mostly quiet but occasionally interjecting when someone said something she disagreed with. Her speech was clear enough now that everyone understood her, even if she spoke slowly. "The food bank needs expansion," she said when they discussed the renovation plans. "Not cosmetic, functional. More families coming. Need bigger capacity." Jeffrey made the note. "Agreed. We'll prioritize that." At the end of the meeting, Marcus presented official paperwork appointing Jeffrey as executive director with a salary of $65,000 plus benefits, effective immediately. The board voted unanimously to approve. Gloria started clapping with her right hand against her left arm, which could now move enough to provide resistance. The rest of the board joined in. "Congratulations, Mr. Kaur," Gloria said, her crooked smile wide. "You've earned this." Week 9. They threw a small celebration at the rehabilitation facility. Just close family, as Gloria called them. Jeffrey, Brian, Marcus, Ms. Yolanda, Coach Dennis, Pastor Michaels. Someone brought a grocery store cake with "Congratulations Executive Director Jeffrey," written in blue icing. Brian presented his father with a drawing he'd made. Jeffrey standing in front of the lighthouse, arms spread wide, with the words "My dad saves people" written across the top in careful 3rd-grade handwriting. Jeffrey hung it on the wall of Gloria's room right next to her photos. "That's going in my office when I come back," Gloria said. "When are you coming back?" Brian asked. Gloria looked at her doctor's latest timeline, taped to her wall. 6 more weeks of therapy. Then maybe home. Then maybe back to work. Part-time. "We'll be ready when you are," Jeffrey said. Week 10. The renovations began at the lighthouse. New roof, updated electrical, proper accessibility ramps, fresh paint in colors the kids had voted on, bright yellows and blues that made the old building look young again. The computer lab got new equipment, 15 brand new computers donated by a tech company that read about the campaign. The gym got refinished floors. The food bank got expanded to double its previous capacity, exactly as Gloria had insisted. Marcus oversaw the renovations personally, stopping by the construction site every day to make sure everything met code and exceeded expectations. "My aunt's coming back to a building she can be proud of," he told the contractors. "Nothing less than perfect." Ms. Yolanda organized volunteers to sort through 40 years of accumulated items, deciding what to keep and what to let go. They found boxes of photos from the 1980s, old donation ledgers with handwritten entries, children's artwork from decades ago carefully preserved in folders. Gloria never threw anything away, Ms. Yolanda said, laughing as she held up a macaroni necklace from 1987 with, "To Miss Gloria, love Marcus," written on the tag. She showed it to Marcus the next time he visited the center. He held it like it was made of glass, this artifact from when he was 7 and still believed in the place. "I made this in summer camp here," he said quietly. "I'd forgotten." "She didn't," Ms. Yolanda said. Marcus hung it in his office at his new consulting firm, a reminder of who he'd been before he forgot. Week 11. Gloria's speech was nearly back to normal, just a slight slowness that made people lean in and listen more carefully, which she claimed was actually an improvement. Makes people pay attention instead of interrupting, she joked. Her walking improved dramatically. She could make it from her room to the common area without resting about 50 steps. She still used the walker, but Davis said she might graduate to a cane within a month. "Then, I'm going back to work," Gloria announced. "Even if it's just a few hours a week." Jeffrey brought Brian for a Sunday visit. Brian had saved up $127 from his allowance and birthday money. "Miss Gloria," he said, shy but determined, "I want to start a scholarship fund for kids who can't afford school supplies. Because you taught me that when you have something, you share it." Gloria's eyes filled with tears. "That's beautiful, Brian. How much are you donating?" "All of it. $127. Then I'll match it." $127. From me too. Marcus, who'd been standing quietly in the corner, pulled out his phone. "I'll match both of you. $254 from me." Jeffrey felt his throat tighten. "Guys, you don't have to." "Yes, we do," Gloria said firmly. "That's what family does." She looked at Brian. "You know what this reminds me of?" "What?" "Your dad gave his last $15 to help me. Now, you're giving your money to help others. The circle continues." Brian beamed. Week 12. The discharge papers were signed. Gloria was moving back to her apartment. Not alone, because Marcus had arranged for a home health aide to visit daily, but independent enough to be in her own space again. The night before she left the facility, Jeffrey visited one last time. "Scared?" he asked. "Terrified," she admitted. "What if I can't do it? What if I fall? What if I'm not who I was?" "You don't have to be who you were. You just have to be who you are now. And that person is still strong enough to build something that saved 300 families." Gloria smiled. "You've gotten good at the inspirational speeches. I learned from the best." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Jeffrey, when you found me on that subway platform, I was giving up, not just on the building, on everything." She looked at him directly. "You saved my life, not by calling the ambulance, by reminding me that life was worth saving. You did the same for me. Then we're even." "No," Jeffrey said. "We're family, and family doesn't keep score." Gloria laughed, the sound fuller and richer than it had been in weeks. "Now, you really sound like me." The next morning, Marcus drove Gloria home. Jeffrey and Brian met them at her apartment with welcome home balloons and a casserole Ms. Yolanda had made. Gloria walked into her apartment slowly, looking at everything like she was seeing it for the first time. The photos on the walls, the furniture she'd owned for decades, the view of the neighborhood from her window. "I'm home," she whispered, and for the first time since the stroke, she looked complete. 6 months after Gloria's stroke, on a cold January morning, She asked Jeffrey to meet her at the downtown subway station. Not the lighthouse. Not her apartment. The exact platform where he'd found her collapsed 9 months earlier. Where he'd made a choice that changed everything. Jeffrey arrived at 6:47 p.m., the same time as that night. Gloria was already there, standing without a walker, without a cane, wearing her burgundy dress and the same worn peacoat. Her posture was straight, her smile no longer crooked. She looked like someone who'd fought death and won. "Why here?" Jeffrey asked, joining her. "Because some conversations need to happen where they began." She pulled an envelope from her coat pocket. "And I need to show you something." The envelope was old, worn at the edges, addressed to her lawyer. The postmark was dated 9 months ago, the exact day Jeffrey had found her. "I was carrying this that night," Gloria said. "It's a letter authorizing my lawyer to list the Lighthouse Community Center for sale. I'd signed it that morning." Jeffrey took the envelope carefully, like it might explode. "I was on my way to deliver it when I got dizzy, sat down to rest, and couldn't get back up." Gloria's voice was steady now, completely recovered, but heavy with memory. "I'd given up, Jeffrey. 40 years of fighting, and I'd decided Marcus was right. The debt was too much. I was too old, too sick, too tired. The building was slowly killing me, so I was going to let it go." A train pulled into the station, doors opening, people rushing on and off. The same chaos as any evening rush hour. Life continuing, indifferent to the moment's wait. Then a stranger with kind eyes spent money he desperately needed to make sure I got home safely. She looked at him. "You didn't know me, didn't know what I'd built or what I was about to destroy. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. No calculations, no conditions. Just kindness." Gloria turned the envelope over in her hands. "That $15 didn't just pay for a car ride. It paid for something more valuable. It reminded me why I started the lighthouse in the first place. I didn't build it because I had all the answers or because I was some kind of saint. I built it because 41 years ago, I believed people were fundamentally good. That we save each other when we can. That community isn't charity. It's how we survive." She held the envelope over a trash can bolted to the platform. "I kept this as a reminder of who I was becoming when I forgot my purpose. Of what I almost lost because I was too tired to remember what mattered." Gloria tore the envelope in half, then in half again, and again, until it was just small pieces of paper that couldn't hurt anyone anymore. "I'm not selling. Not now. Not ever. The building goes into the Community Land Trust next week. Permanently protected from developers, from my own future moments of weakness, from anyone who might forget that some things are worth more than money." She dropped the pieces into the trash, watching them fall like confetti celebrating a victory that almost wasn't. "I wanted you here at this exact spot to say thank you. Not for saving the building, though you did. Not for running it better than I ever could, though you do. But for reminding me who I was when I'd forgotten. For showing me that kindness isn't weakness or foolishness. It's the only thing strong enough to change the world." Jeffrey felt tears burning in his eyes. "I just did what anyone would." "Stop." Gloria's voice was firm but gentle. "Stop saying that. What you did was extraordinary, Jeffrey. You had $15, a sick child at home, and every logical reason to walk past a collapsed stranger and protect your own. Instead, you chose compassion. You chose to see me as a person worth helping even when helping me cost you everything." She reached into her other pocket and pulled out something small wrapped in tissue paper. "I had something made for you." Jeffrey unwrapped it slowly. It was a keychain, simple, silver, surprisingly heavy for its size. On one side, words were engraved in elegant script. $15 changed everything, GS. He turned it over. The other side read, "Kindness is Revolution 2025. The lighthouse is yours now," Gloria said. "Officially, legally, permanently. Not just as executive director, though you're brilliant at that, but as the person I trust to carry this forward when I'm gone. When I die, this building doesn't go to Marcus or to my estate. It goes to the Community Land Trust, and you're named as the permanent guardian. You and whatever board you build will protect it forever." "Gloria, I can't." You already are. You have been since the day I hired you. I'm just making it official. She smiled. Besides, you've earned it. In 6 months, volunteer numbers are up 200%. Donations have tripled. Program enrollment has doubled. You've written grant applications that I never would have thought of. You've brought energy and innovation that this place desperately needed. She took both his hands. But more than that, you've reminded everyone, including me, what the lighthouse is actually for. It's not for me. It's not a monument to my dead husband or my 40 years of work. It's for the people who need it. And you've never forgotten that, not once. Jeffrey looked down at the keychain in his palm, this small object that represented everything his life had become. That night, he said quietly, when I spent that $15, I thought I was making a stupid choice. I thought I was being irresponsible, putting a stranger before my own son's medication. I went home terrified that I'd failed Brian, that Sarah would be disappointed in me for not taking care of our child. He looked up at Gloria. But Brian said something the next morning that changed everything. He asked why I looked sad, and I told him I'd help someone instead of buying his medicine. And you know what he said? Gloria shook her head. He said, "That's okay, Dad. Mom always said helping people is what makes us good." He was 8 years old and he understood something I'd forgotten. That kindness isn't about convenience or having extra. It's about choosing to care even when it's hard. A train arrived. They stepped back to let passengers exit, creating a small island of stillness in the rushing crowd. That $15 taught me that I was raising my son right, Jeffrey continued. That Sarah's lessons had stuck. That being broke didn't mean being broken. And then you gave me a job and suddenly that $15 became a paycheck, became stability, became purpose. It became everything. No, Gloria said softly. The $15 was just the seed. You're the one who grew it into something beautiful. She gestured around the platform. Look at this place. Hundreds of people rushing past. Everyone focused on their own destination. 9 months ago, every single one of them walked past me, stepped over my belongings, pretended I didn't exist, because that's easier than helping. That's safer than caring. Her eyes met his. But you stopped. And that one choice, that one moment of compassion, created a ripple effect that saved 300 families, kept a 40-year legacy alive, brought a community together, and reminded my nephew who he really is. All because you decided that a stranger's dignity mattered. A woman nearby dropped her phone. It skittered across the platform toward the tracks. Without thinking, Jeffrey and Gloria both moved. Jeffrey grabbing the woman's arm to keep her from lunging toward the edge, Gloria snatching the phone just before it went over. The woman looked at them, stunned. Thank you. That was so stupid of me. You're not stupid, Gloria said, handing her the phone with a warm smile. You're just human. We all drop things sometimes. The woman hurried away, clutching her phone, and Gloria turned to Jeffrey with raised eyebrows. See? Contagious. Jeffrey laughed despite the emotion thick in his throat. Is that why you brought me here? To demonstrate that kindness spreads. No. I brought you here to tell you one more thing. Gloria's expression grew serious. I'm 81 years old. The stroke taught me I don't get forever. So I've been putting my affairs in order, making sure everything is protected when I'm gone. Gloria, you're healthy now. You've got years. Maybe, maybe not. Either way, I need you to know, my will is updated. Everything I own, which isn't much but it's something, goes into the lighthouse endowment when I die. My apartment gets sold, money goes to the center. My savings, my life insurance, every penny. Not to Marcus, not to distant relatives. To the work. She pulled out a folded document from her coat. And this is a letter I've written to the board, to be read after my death. It explains everything. How I founded the lighthouse, why it matters, and most importantly, why I chose you to lead it into the future. Jeffrey couldn't speak. Just stood there on the platform where everything had started, holding a keychain that represented everything his life had become. I don't know how to thank you, he finally managed. You already have. Every single day you thank me by showing up, by caring about the families we serve, by teaching Brian that helping others isn't a burden, It's a privilege. By proving that $15 spent in kindness can change the entire world. She hugged him, and Jeffrey hugged back. This woman who'd become family, who'd given him purpose when he'd been drowning in rejection and fear. When they pulled apart, Gloria was smiling through tears. Your wife would be so proud of you, she said. Sarah asked you to teach Brian kindness. You've done that and more. You've taught him that kindness isn't just a nice idea. It's how we build the world we want to live in. They stood together watching the trains come and go. This unlikely pair who'd found each other in a moment of crisis and built something neither could have created alone. Finally, Gloria checked her watch. I should get home. Marcus is cooking dinner. Can you believe it? The man who ate takeout for 40 years is now making home-cooked meals because his nutrition therapist told him to. Jeffrey smiled. That's growth. That's family. We change each other, make each other better. She squeezed his hand one more time. Same as you did for me. As they walked toward the exit, Jeffrey turned back one last time to look at the spot where he'd found Gloria collapsed 9 months ago. That exact spot had contained an impossible choice. His last $15 or a stranger's safety. He'd chosen compassion. And that choice had bought him everything that mattered: purpose, community, family, proof that kindness was stronger than poverty, that caring was braver than protecting yourself, that $15 spent in love was worth more than $1 million spent in fear. The math finally made sense. Not because the numbers added up, but because some things are too important to be measured in money. 5 years later, the Lighthouse Community Center's 46th anniversary celebration filled the main hall with 600 people, 3 times what the building was designed to hold. But nobody cared about fire codes when you were celebrating something this important. Gloria Shaw, now 81, sat in a place of honor on the small stage, wearing her signature burgundy dress. Her hair was completely white, her movements a bit slower, but her eyes were sharp and her smile was radiant. She'd officially retired from day-to-day operations 2 years ago, but she still showed up every Tuesday and Thursday to read to children and tell stories about the old days. Jeffrey Kaur, now 37, stood at the podium as executive director, looking out at a sea of faces. Families whose lives had been touched by the lighthouse. Volunteers who'd given countless hours. Donors who'd invested in the mission. City officials who'd come to recognize the center as a model for community development. Brian, now 13, sat in the front row with a group of younger kids he mentored. He'd grown tall, confident, with his mother's kind eyes and his father's quiet strength. The scholarship fund he'd started with $127 5 years ago had grown to $45,000, helping 83 kids afford school supplies. 5 years ago, Jeffrey began, his voice steady and clear. I was standing on a subway platform with my last $15, trying to decide between my son's medication and helping a stranger who'd collapsed alone. The room was silent, everyone leaning forward. I chose to help the stranger. And that choice changed everything. Not because I'm special or because I did something extraordinary. I just did what felt right in that moment. I saw someone who needed help, and I helped. He gestured to Gloria. That stranger was Gloria Shaw, the woman who built this place with her husband's life insurance money 41 years ago. The woman who spent 4 decades proving that community isn't charity. It's how we save each other. The woman who gave me a job when I had nothing, gave my son stability when we were drowning, and gave me purpose when I'd forgotten what that felt like. Gloria wiped tears from her eyes with a tissue that Ms. Yolanda, now 73 but still volunteering, had thoughtfully handed her. Today, the Lighthouse serves 892 families through our food bank. We provide after-school programs for 240 children. We've hosted job training for 156 adults this year. We've served 28,000 meals to seniors. We've expanded our computer lab, our community garden, our basketball program. We've become a model that other communities are studying and replicating. Applause thundered through the room. But numbers don't tell the whole story, Jeffrey continued. So I want to invite some people up here who can. One by one, people approached the microphone. A mother whose daughter had learned to read at the Lighthouse when schools had given up on her. Now a junior at Northwestern on a full scholarship. A young man who'd been kept off the streets by Coach Dennis's basketball program, heading to the NBA draft next month. A senior who'd been eating lunch at the center for 24 years. This place saved my life by reminding me I wasn't alone. A small business owner who'd started her bakery after taking entrepreneurship classes in the computer lab. Now employing 12 people and donating bread to the food bank weekly. Each story was a testament to what Gloria had built, what the community had fought to save, what $15 and one choice had made possible. Marcus Shaw, now 50, stood to speak. He looked completely different from the sharp-suited developer who'd walked into the center 5 years ago with dollar signs in his eyes. His face was softer, his demeanor humble, his purpose clear. 5 years ago, I was trying to sell this building for $2.3 million, Marcus said. I'd convinced myself I was being practical, responsible, smart. I was actually being exactly what my father would have been ashamed of. Someone who'd forgotten that some things matter more than money. He looked at his aunt. Watching Aunt Gloria have a stroke while giving a speech about community taught me something I should have never forgotten. This building isn't real estate. These families aren't demographics. This work isn't charity. It's what makes us human. The choice to care for each other even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. He pulled out his phone, showed the screen to the crowd. My consulting firm has now helped 237 community organizations across the country achieve financial sustainability. We've secured $47 million in funding for nonprofits doing this kind of work. We've trained 500+ community leaders in nonprofit management. And every single one of those victories started the night I watched my aunt collapse and realized I'd been trying to sell the most valuable thing I'd ever known. The applause was deafening. When it quieted, Gloria slowly stood. Jeffrey moved to help her, but she waved him off. She wanted to do this herself. She approached the podium, gripping it for support, looking out at 600 faces representing 41 years of work. 41 years ago, Gloria began, her voice clear and strong despite her age. I bought this building with my husband David's life insurance money. Everyone told me I was being foolish, told me to move somewhere safe, invest in my future, stop trying to save people who didn't want to be saved. She smiled. But David and I had always believed that people are fundamentally good, that we're put on this earth to take care of each other. That community isn't something nice you do when you have extra. It's how we survive when we have nothing. She looked directly at Jeffrey. 5 years ago, I'd forgotten that. I was tired, sick, drowning in debt, and ready to give up. I'd actually signed the papers to sell this building. I was on my way to deliver them when I collapsed on a subway platform, alone and scared, watching hundreds of people walk past me like I was invisible. Her voice thickened with emotion. Then a stranger with kind eyes, a man with his own son to worry about, his own bills he couldn't pay, his own very good reasons to keep walking. That stranger stopped. He spent his last $15 to make sure I got home safely. He didn't know me, didn't know what I'd built or what I was about to destroy. He just helped because that's who he is. Gloria had to pause, composing herself. That $15 reminded me why I started this place. It reminded me that people are good, that we do save each other, that 41 years of work mattered because moments like that happen every single day if we're brave enough to choose compassion. She turned to fully face Jeffrey, tears streaming down her face. Jeffrey Core, you didn't just save a building. You saved me. You reminded me who I was. You took a place I'd built and made it better, stronger, more impactful than I ever could have alone. You've proven that leadership isn't about being the founder or having all the answers. It's about showing up every day and choosing to care. She pulled a small box from her pocket. So on behalf of the board, the community, and 41 years of families who've been served by this place, I want to give you this. Jeffrey opened the box. Inside was a key, old brass, worn smooth by decades of use. That's the original key to this building, Gloria said. The one David and I used to unlock the doors on our very first day in 1985. I've kept it all these years as a reminder of where we started. Now I'm passing it to you because you're not just the executive director. You're the keeper of this legacy. You're the one who'll make sure it continues long after I'm gone. Jeffrey couldn't speak, just held the key, this tangible piece of history, this responsibility. The room erupted in applause that went on and on. When it finally quieted, Jeffrey approached the microphone. "I don't have a prepared speech," he admitted. "I didn't know Gloria was going to do this. But I can tell you one thing. That $15 I spent 5 years ago was the best investment I ever made. Not because of what I got back, though I got back everything that matters. But because it taught me something my wife Sarah tried to teach me before she died." He looked at Brian in the front row. "Sarah told me to teach our son to be kind even when it costs everything. For years, I thought that meant being kind when it was convenient, when I had extra to give. But $15 and a collapsed stranger taught me what it really means. Being kind, especially when it costs everything. Because that's when it matters most." He held up the key. "This key represents 41 years of people choosing kindness over convenience, community over profit, compassion over fear. And I promise, to Gloria, to all of you, to every family that will walk through these doors in the future, I'll protect that legacy with everything I have." The celebration continued for hours. Food, music, laughter, dancing, stories shared and memories made. Late in the evening, after most people had left, Jeffrey found Gloria sitting in her old office. The walls were still covered with children's drawings, now joined by photos from 5 years of growth and change. "Tired?" he asked. "Exhausted," she admitted. "But happy. The best kind of tired." He sat across from her, in the same chair where she'd offered him a job 5 years ago. "Can I ask you something?" "Always. That envelope you showed me at the subway station. The authorization to sell. Was it real? Or did you create it just to make a point?" Gloria smiled mysteriously. "Does it matter? I guess not. The truth is, Jeffrey, I was ready to sell. Maybe I'd already signed papers, maybe I hadn't. But I'd definitely given up in here." She tapped her chest. "And that's the same thing. You reminded me why that was wrong. That's what matters." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "What happens now?" Jeffrey asked. "You've passed the key, officially retired. What does Gloria Shaw do next?" "Live," she said simply. "Enjoy my nephew learning to cook. Visit this place as a volunteer instead of the boss. Watch you lead this community into the future. Maybe travel. I've always wanted to see the Grand Canyon. You should. Maybe I will." She looked at him with those sharp brown eyes. "What about you? What does Jeffrey Core do next?" "Keep showing up. Keep choosing kindness. Keep teaching Brian that helping others isn't a burden. It's how we become fully human. And keep protecting this place? With everything I have." Gloria reached across the desk and took his hand. "Then my work here is done. 41 years, and I'm leaving it in the hands of someone who understands that buildings don't save people. People save each other, and buildings just give us somewhere to do it." They sat together in the quiet office, two people who'd been strangers on a subway platform and had become family through $15 and the choice to care. Outside, the lighthouse stood on its corner. No longer Gloria's alone, now belonging to everyone who'd fought to save it, everyone who'd been saved by it, everyone who understood that some things are worth more than their property value. The lights blazed bright against the darkness. A lighthouse doing exactly what lighthouses do, showing people the way home, one act of kindness at a time, starting with $15. If the story moved you, I need you to do something right now. First, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this remind us what really matters, and I share them because we need these reminders that kindness wins, that community is real, that one person can change everything. Second, and this is important, share this video with someone who needs hope right now. We all know somebody struggling, somebody who thinks their small acts of kindness don't matter, somebody who needs to hear that $15 can change the world. Tag them. Send them this link. Let them know their compassion matters. Third, drop a comment telling me your $15 story. What act of kindness, given or received, changed your life? Maybe someone helped you when you had nothing. Maybe you helped someone and it led somewhere unexpected. I want to hear it. Every comment is a reminder that we're all connected by these moments of choosing to care. And here's my challenge. This week, be Jeffrey. Spend your $15. Help someone who needs it. Show up when it's inconvenient. Choose compassion when it costs you something real. It doesn't have to be money, it could be time, attention, effort. Just do something kind that stretches you. Then come back here next week and tell me what happened. Because I guarantee you, that one choice will ripple outward in ways you can't predict. Maybe you'll change someone's life. Maybe they'll change yours. Maybe you'll just remind someone that people are good and the world is worth saving. That's how revolutions start. Not with grand gestures or perfect plans, but with one person on a subway platform deciding that another person's dignity matters more than their own comfort. Thank you for watching this entire story. Thank you for being the kind of person who cares enough to spend 40 minutes hearing about a single father, an elderly woman, and $15 that changed everything. Now go out there and prove that kindness still wins. Be the $15 someone desperately needs. I'll see you in the next video.